and these schools are like V blocks where they are more into technology, mathematics, science, and engineering and all of that. We would also look at that coupled with the free senior high school policy, because they are under education. One of the things we'll be looking under education also is about the UTAG and CITAG strike. Just this evening, the NLC has declared the strike by UTAG and CITAG as illegal. And so you can join in the conversation by sending your views, comments, and contributions once again on our WhatsApp text line. Those of you watching us on Facebook can share the Facebook Live for other people to also watch tonight's edition of the program. I've been joined in the studio by Comrade A.A. Gafaru. He's a Deputy Regional Communications Officer for Northeast Region. Also in the studio is Mr. Solomon Owusu, National Communications Team Member, the New Patriotic Party, for the New Patriotic Party. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening, Justice.
Thank you all so much for joining me tonight. Happy New Year.
Many happy returns.
Right.
That's what they say.
Right. I'm glad seeing both of you in 2022. I pray for good health, prosperity, and everything for all of us. I'll start with you, Mr. Osu, on the free senior high school policy as implemented by your government. It has had, its challenges and all of that. People have complained. Some parents some time ago were of the view that, the free senior high school policy is one that is not helping. Just recently, I have spoken to the General Secretary of the CPP, who is of the view that the free senior high school in itself has been implemented haphazardly. I'll come to you for your views on all this, but before, let's listen to President Dankwa Akufo-Addo whilst, cutting sword for the STEM schools here in Accra. We'll be right back.
Government is repositioning our educational system anchored on STEM education. Already, as part of my commitment to the advancement of STEM education in the country, government has commenced the development of 20 STEM centers and 10 model STEM senior high schools across the country, which are at various stages of completion. Some of these schools will be operationalized this year. These institutions and centers will be fitted with state-of-the-art equipment and laboratories to facilitate teaching and learning in all areas of study, including artificial intelligence and robotics. Within the next 24 months, God willing, the Accra STEM Academy will be completed from kindergarten to senior high school, with an expected student population of some 2,000 students. This academy will have a number of state-of-the-art facilities, including a 4-story classroom block, science laboratories, a sick bay, administrative area, staff common room, library, washrooms, canteen, and a 1,500 capacity multi-purpose hall. The Accra STEM Academy, being constructed at the cost of some 32 million cedis, will equip learners from kindergarten to senior high school with 21st century skills in problem solving, creativity, communication, collaboration, data literacy, digital literacy, and computer science. In addition, the Accra STEM Academy will be a place where learners in junior high school will be provided with the options of learning basic engineering, manufacturing, and global studies to help them make informed decisions on their preferred programs of choice at senior high school level.
That was President Dankwa Akufo-Addo, right, a cutting sword for the STEM school at East Lagos. Now, the PR for Ministry of Education has also thrown more light on what these schools are and the purpose they are going to be serving. Let's listen to Kwesi Kwarteng, who is the PR for Ministry of Education.
He further touted the
when you talk about STEM education, it's a conscious effort by the ministry. Of course, I mean, with the policy directive coming from the President Akufo-Addo, and his Minister for Education, Dr. Aosei to be able to realign our education to fit to the dictates and demands of the 21st century. Of course, I mean, in the 21st century, all countries that has been able to develop has developed under the backdrop of education. No country has developed without having a strong and robust educational system. And then you come to our country where in the past you admit that our students were not assertive, our students were not critical thinkers, our students were not they were not problem solvers. And this is a problem that the students themselves did not cause. I mean, this is a problem that, I mean, by and large was largely contributed to the kind of education system that we were giving to our kids or our children and our people. And so what the Minister for Education has done with the introduction of STEM is about training students who this time around are assertive, training students who this time around are critical thinkers, who this time around are problem solvers, and will be able to use education to attain socioeconomic transformation, socioeconomic development in the country. That when you have strong pillars in the areas of science, technology, engineering, and math, because within this fourth industrial revolution, within this 21st century, there's science, technology, engineering, and math. That is the order of the day. And so there are a lot of interventions that the ministry has put into place, of course, under the able leadership of the Minister for Education, Dr. Aosei J.A. And so one of them is the STEM resource centers, where selected senior high schools, their level of ongoing projects geared towards building STEM resource centers. Of course, that would mean that even at the secondary or existing secondary level, you have a lot of career paths programs that will be run there. Of course, it's still based on STEM, that is the science, technology, engineering, and math. And so we are looking at a program like, for instance, aviation, aeronautics, engineering, civil engineering, what have you. Those are the programs that will also be run there. So by the time students even get to the tertiary level, they will have the necessary skills before they even get to the tertiary level. Again, beyond that, you also have the STEM schools. STEM schools, you have that of Abomosu, you have Pesempe, you have Oyoko, you have Bosonche, you have Diaso. These are all complete STEM schools. That are, will be open for students who are at the senior high school level. And so these are also some of the policy interventions that the ministry have done. But beyond
that was Kwesi Kwarteng, PR for Ministry of Education. But let me tell you that the STEM schools are dedicated principally to the teaching and learning of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and in short, that is termed as STEM. The academy, which will be completed within the next 24 months, I think 2 years, will be from kindergarten to high school, with an expected population of some 2,000 students. It will have a number of state-of-the-art facilities, including a 4-story classroom block, science laboratories, a sick bay, administrative area, staff common room, library, washrooms, canteen, and 1,500 capacity multi-purpose hall. And that's just about it. But we'll focus our attention to that of the free senior high school policy and its challenges. We'll later come to this particular topic and then wrap up with that of the UTAG and CITAG strike. But let's briefly look at the highs and lows of the free senior high school policy and the fact that the students have been home for some time until today. The GES has agreed on a date for reopening, because initially when they vacated, the communique was that they were going to be at home until further notice. Fortunately, GS has come out with a date, and they're saying that the reopening date for the free senior high schools is going to be on February 7, and that of basic schools January 18. Senior, your take on some concerns that have been expressed by some good people of Ghana on the policy.
Thank you very much to you and your viewers. Justice, the first question that must agitate everybody's mind is, why did we come to this far? Why did the MPP as a government decide to roll out the free SHS policy?
Right.
You and I were in this country, and we realized it became an annual problem where mothers especially had to sell their clothes, some their cooking utensils, etc., etc., because of the financial difficulties they were facing in sending their wards to secondary schools.
Right.
As a result of that, most brilliant but needy students could not have the opportunity of enjoying secondary education like you and I, to have shaped the development of this country.
Very well.
So a government, and we shouldn't forget the fact that free SHS was partially being implemented in this country, in the northern part of this country, and it had its own challenges. People in the south were not enjoying it, so a government came in and said, look, if we are going to do it, then let the whole country benefit from it. We could have our pilots in the south or the north, let everyone enjoy it. So it was against this background that we went to the people of this country that they should vote for us, and that when they vote for us, we would implement the free SHS. True to our promise, it was implemented in 2017.
Right.
Like you know, every policy in this world does not come without a challenge. That does not make the policy very bad. It only tells you that you have to improve upon the policy year in and year. And I'm sure the Ministry of Education and the government is taking notice of all the challenges that are coming with it and then addressing it. A lot of it has to do with finances, financial situations. You and I have to pay our taxes to be able to make sure that the policy becomes sustainable. To do with the reopening, I'm not too sure it has to do. It has much to do with the free SHS itself. You remember, 2020, we had a COVID situation, so that destabilized the academic calendar. And if you are in education sector, you excuse me, realize that in the olden days, at least in my generation, 95's coming, we were reopening school in January. Excuse me. And so the government was thinking between the two, whether to revert back to an old system where schools were open January, February, and then we ended in December. Sorry. And that was what was agitating. Through to that, the ministry set up a ministerial committee on reopening. And they came out. Sorry.
If my producers are there, kindly get me a water. Who is there, please? I'll come to you, rather. I think you need to take a break. But let me... Welcome back from that break. You're still watching Hot News right here on Pan-African Television with me, Justice Appiah. You can join in the conversation by sending in your views, comments, and contributions on our WhatsApp stroke text line displaying on the screen. We'll make a time and read all those out for you. Those of you watching us on Facebook can share the Facebook Live for other people to also watch tonight's edition of the program. If you're watching us on Facebook, please share the Facebook Live for other people to also watch tonight's edition of the program. Let me go to Mr. Osu. Sorry for that, but you were having your take on the concerns expressed by some, good people of Ghana.
So the ministry together with government were thinking about whether to revert back to the old calendar.
Right.
That started from January and ends before the Christmas. And so that is what they have come to. And I think that parents must be happy that at least reopening is coming.
Right.
Let us also get it straight that it is for us as a country to support the free SHS to, as it were, come to stay. Because definitely you have people who have challenges. There is no way a policy will come without challenges. What is important is that majority of Ghanaians that hitherto could not have accessed secondary school are now doing so. And the figures are there for us to see. If you compare the number of candidates that sat for WASI from, say, 2012 up to date, you would see the improvement, the consistent improvement in the numbers. And all this has been made possible by the introduction of the free SHS policy. What is important is that challenges that has to do with money going early for procurement of food items, the building of more classrooms, is what we all have to think about to improve upon it. Nobody can convince any rational being that allowing kids to go to school free of charge is a problem.
But there are sessions that you have haphazardly implemented the policy. The policy in itself, I think that people have, lauded the government for the policy, except that the policy is not well implemented, hence the challenges, the enormous challenges we are facing in terms of its implementation. Would you agree to persons who were saying so?
No, yes, that is why I said that it is every policy comes with these challenges. What is important is that those issues that are being raised, legitimately so, has to be dealt with.
Do you have a roadmap for the implementation of this policy?
Yes, when we started, for instance, we introduced the double track.
Okay.
As we speak, some of the schools have left the double track scenario.
How many schools have left the double track?
At least about 10% of the schools, the last time I checked, have left it, and more are leaving. And the reason being that, it doesn't take a day or a month to put up infrastructure. That does not also mean that we have to get all the buildings in place before you start the implementation of a policy. So it's a gradual, like the UDS. When UDS started, it started as a small campus. Now it has expanded to WA and other places. Can you imagine if nothing at all started? Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, go and check the history, how it started. So every policy, this capitation that we are enjoying today, when President Kufuor started it started on a pilot basis. Now it has extended to almost every school that is in this country, every public basic school that is in this country. That is how you start a policy. What is very key is that as a government, we are addressing all the challenges one after the other, and that is why we are where we are. It is the free SHS is almost getting to 5 years, and for now you are making a lot of headway. And Ghanaians must still encourage the government and subsequent government that will come to continuously make sure that this policy does not fizzle out, but rather is encouraged more.
When you look at the free senior high school policy, sustainability is key. And you're saying that you have a roadmap in implementing the policy, one that you're preview to, you've seen.
Yes.
How do you intend to implement the policy? How do you intend to sustain the policy? Because it has already been implemented. How do you intend to sustain it? Looking at the roadmap, what are the short-term goals? What are the long-term plans? And then the medium-term and all of that. How do you make sure that by your policy document we sustain this policy?
I mean, the whole thing, the whole free SHS borders on financing. The whole issue, because if you are going to put up, as it were, borders, it demands finance. If you are going to feed the kids very well, it demands finance. And that is what the government is concentrating on, maximizing the tax generation in the country, mobilizing more revenue to channel into the free SHS.
I think that the source of revenue for the implementation of a policy came up even before you implemented it. Up to today, the New Patriotic Party government has not told Ghanaians the source of funding for the free senior high school.
No, we have said it on a number of occasions.
Well, very well. That I may not know, but what is the source of funding for the free senior high school?
From the oil revenue. We are taking some of the money from the oil revenue and some through the normal taxation to.
Is that sustainable?
It's sustainable. It's to the extent that we are making the right investment from the oil revenue. Don't forget, a country like the Middle East, the Abu Dhabi, they are not, Dubai is no more mining oil or exploiting oil. But because of the kind of investment they made with the oil revenues, it is yielding dividends, and which is being used to finance other activities. And that is exactly what we are doing as a government. That's maximizing the returns from the revenues we get from the oil revenue, and investing it wisely would be able to cushion the free SHS as we move along. It is better to invest that money in the educational sector than to do otherwise, because this generation or crop of students we are producing, if we are able to give them the right skill, they will then become more profitable to our society than anything else.
We are talking about space in the various senior high schools. We are talking about how enrollment has increased, you know, which led government to introduce the double track system. We are talking about eliminating the double track system by creating space on the various senior high schools, you know, or in the various senior high schools and all of that. Government has then initiated another policy by building some schools or structures, making it schools they term as STEM. What's the sense in this when we are already having challenges with the free senior high school policy that need to be tackled?
First of all, the STEM schools, 20 STEM centers and then 10 STEM schools will take off some of the students. If you look at the numbers involved, it runs into tens of thousands of students that will be taken out of the mainstream.
It doesn't mean that the challenges on the various senior high schools will be resolved.
So if you go to the various senior high schools, constructions are ongoing. That fund is doing fantastically well in that direction, putting up structures to take some of the burdens from the various secondary schools. We shouldn't lose sight of the fact that as a country, we have been complaining our inability to convert our education into actuals, that is into practicality, where students will be able to do the kind of things expected of them. Production of cameras, Facebook, etc., etc. And that is what the STEM education seeks to achieve. If you go to a country like Singapore, Singapore doesn't have any resources apart from water. But what they have is the human resource, which is very important.
You need STEM resource centers, and you're building 20 of those.
Yes.
The previous government started the e-blocks, of which we are told that, they had some 126 started. They were supposed to do 200, some 126 were at various stages of completion. They handed over, according to them, about some 43 or so to, this government. It has become a bone of contention as to the number they have handed over or they had handed over to this government and all of that. This is a government, and I know that governance is continuous and all of that. So why are we abandoning those e-blocks by starting new projects and all of that when we still need space? We need those structures for other educational projects and all of that. Are people not true by saying that this government is haphazardly implementing some of these policies?
Yes, educational policies. So I would disagree that we have abandoned these e-blocks.
Haven't you?
We haven't.
How many have you completed so far?
So we came to meet the e-blocks at various stages of completion. Some were 5%, we have moved it to 78%. Some were 60%, we have moved it to 90%. Some were 50%, it is 80%. So we are doing it. That does not prevent us from also doing what is right to the country. You and I know that for this country to develop, science, technology, mathematics, engineering education has to be solid. There is no doubt about that. Our education.
In other words, are you saying that that is not solid so far?
No.
Because we do science in our senior high schools, we do mathematics in our senior high schools, we do, well, engineering at the technical schools and, you know, tertiary schools. All these things are done. Are you saying that we need separate schools to be able to do this? Is that what you're saying?
And so we have various football teams and various coach teams. Where we have football academies where we train the kids to get the basic skill in football. What the STEM education seeks to do is to catch them young, train them through science. A course like coding, it is only in this country that kids do not do coding at a tender age.
Okay.
That is what STEM seeks to do. We do the science and mathematics is imbued in the kids right from the tender age, so that they become more or less sophisticated to be able to compete globally. Now we are in a globalized world. We are no more competing amongst ourselves. Artificial intelligence, how many kids here are doing that? And that is what is key. Robotics, the world is now into a robotic terrain. What are we doing about these? Are solving real life situation problems. So if anybody discounts the launch of the STEM, then that person probably is living in the medieval ages. What the world needs now is science education that is practically oriented. I listened to the quiz mistress of the National Science and Maths quiz last 2 years or so when St. Peter's won the quiz. I mean, like 2 or 3 years ago. And that after the quiz program, the contestants of St. Peter's were sent to a contest in Portugal. It was, according to her, if she was lying, I'm also lying, that it became embarrassing that when the students were presented with certain instruments, they hadn't seen some before. You understand?
Right.
And so they could not, they knew all the theories about the instrument, but in actual, like, in real life situation, how to use the instrument became a problem. And that is what the kind of challenge STEM seeks to address. And if we are able to do it well, it will benefit this country to solve the everyday problem. And that's what you and I need. We need to solve our peculiar problems. Our Ghanaian problems can only be solved by Ghanaians, and Ghanaian scientists will have what it takes to solve our problems. So we must encourage some of these things for us to move forward as a country.
Right, thank you so much for your submission. I'll come back to you. Now, your party, Gafaru, criticized the free senior high school policy and its implementation. I listened to the president some time ago who asked the students, especially those who were candidates, those who were going to write their examination, to go and pass, to shame the naysayers. Who are those naysayers? Persons criticizing the policy and all of that. We are looking at the free senior high school policy. Would you say that government is vindicated? Would you say that government took the right decision by implementing the policy at the time it was implemented? It was implemented despite the challenges, I mean, it has faced or it's facing.
Just good evening to you and then your listeners. You know, this has been an issue that we discuss over and over and over again.
Right.
And even prior to the implementation, it was a topical issue which was of national interest. You see, no one, and let me put it on record, no one has ever against the implementation of free SHS to start with. We in NDC and well-thinking Ghanaians, we believe that, just as we started, that to implement such a flagship program, it should be well thought through. And of course, because of how we anticipated that once it is supposed to be started as a flagship program, you would be expecting some challenges. And so therefore, you need to start it gradually. You will not just build a house and then you go and start by laying blocks without having a foundation. No, it should be in a gradual process. And of course, we started, President Mahama started the or introduced the progressively free SHS. And why did he start the progressively free SHS? Because if you are to start such a project, a project or a policy, you would know that it would expand or open up the system for many people to get access to. Yes, we all agree. And of course, you would need infrastructure to accommodate those people. And for that matter, President Mahama started the e-block. That is in anticipation of the huge numbers that the free SHS will bring on board. These people, when they were starting it, unfortunately, when we left power and they were starting it, we gave them advices. They played that ear. They never listened. They said, you have to just start. You can't say it once you are speaking about it and you don't start. When will you ever start it? So these are anticipated challenges. And of course, it started when we all saw the first batch, the stampeding that went on at the Black Star Square. We all saw that just for placement, simple placement. We saw that because it wasn't well thought through. Again, we saw after the posting, we saw how people were crowded in schools. Others were lying in verandas. We saw that. And we also saw we experienced instances in which students will go to school in less than 1 month or 2 months, and they would come home in the name of vacation and stay in the house for almost 3 to 4 months. How would they learn? Are you opening up the system just to accommodate a huge number without quality? Because the number of hours spent in school accounts to the opportunity given to the students to learn, to study. Again, if you would understand that it wasn't well thought through program, funding up to now, they cannot tell us the source of funding. Someone will say it is through the annual budgetary allocation. Another will say it's through oil process. Another person will tell us that it's through borrowing, because we all know that quite recently, like 2 months ago, the minister of state designate for finance made mention that they want to raise bond about $1 billion dollar bond to finance free SHS. So they can't even tell us the source of fund. And we made mention that, look, this kind of policy, it needs to be thought through. And once it's thought through, this kind of things challenges that are coming would have been handled. Let's think about this. And let me make this point justice. This government has proven over and over again that when it comes to rhetorics and then failure, their record shows that, or accentuates the fact that they are placed in as the most deceptive government ever.
Why are you saying so?
Look, they will bring one district, one factory, which is a very beautiful policy. At the end, they will fail. And they will fail Ghanaians. They will tell us that they will build more ports or harbor for the people of Cape Coast. At the end, they will move back. They will tell us that they will build one district, one market. At the end, they will retract. They will tell us that they will build one district, one hospital. Good policies. Flowery policies. But at the end, as a state, their failure of these things accentuates their place as the most deceptive government. So if they are bringing out STEM, talking about having V-shaped buildings and other things, yes, it's a good policy. No one would begrudge them, because we are all for the development of the country. However, do we have, or do Ghanaians have the conviction, the trust that they will be able, or it is a well thought through policy, and it will go through smoothly without the kind of clear and then crystal clear challenges we are having as far as the senior high schools are concerned? Let's take, for instance, if this government they wanted to even do the free SHS nicely, as it was appropriately introduced. If they had completed the free SHS, because we completed over about 46 free SHS E-blocks, huge or monumental buildings. If they would make good use of it, they don't need to even be building, because most of them, in fact, for instance, UU in the Nasone district, constituency or district, yes, we still have one at Nasone, about 75% completed. In fact, the whole of that catchment area, they don't have a secondary school. They have left it there, rotting, assuming they take the pain to complete it for Ghanaians, because it is not the money of NDC, it's Ghanaian money. If they complete it,
to them, you have established the schools far away from, you know, where people are living. The schools are located in the bush, and you've not added, you know, boarding facilities and all of that. So accessibility becomes a problem. That's according to the new period. Also, looking at places where the schools are too far from, you know, where people are living, they think that they must add boarding facilities to enable people to stay there rather than, you know, commuting long, you know, miles to where those schools are located. I think that is quite reasonable, don't you think so?
That kind of notion, I would say, is preposterous. And then
preposterous?
Yes, of course. Where was Legon built? Where was it established? In a bush. In a bush. Today, where is Legon? In the heart of Accra. In the heart of the capital. And if they are talking about accommodation, well, why not convert it? Because it is a 3-story building. Why not convert the down block? Because it's a huge infrastructure. Why not convert the down infrastructure? It's not an excuse enough. Convert the down facility to a hostel. So this excuse is more or less like, as they made mention that they will protect the public purse. They are rather dissipating the public purse. Yes, they are dissipating the public purse. And they are not to be trusted. Look, with regards to free SHS and whatever is happening, this government, common education, they are not able. Common education, they are not able to handle, or they are not able to control education.
Why are you saying that they are not able to handle education?
They are not able to, and if a government, as at this time, is forming a committee for the opening of school, is that not laughable?
What's wrong with forming a committee
just like
for the reopening?
Just like they, pat their back and then they boasted of being able or being competent to be able to manage the Ghanaian economy, and at the end they form a committee, an ad hoc committee to see as to what is bringing down or the depreciation of the city. It's the same way they are doing. The same way.
But what's wrong with forming committees? I'm struggling to understand the problems or the challenges with forming a committee on some of these issues.
Come on, Justice. It is not today that a secondary school or formal education is going through in Ghana. We have never heard of that. We have never heard of that. This is the first time we are hearing of it. And are we going to say that the system, GES, is not able to form a calendar that students can go through and know that this is the time we are opening school, this is the time duration we are going to do in school, and this is the time we are vacating, and we have to seek the intervention of an ad hoc committee to do just come out with calendar, not even reopening. It's laughable, Justice. So if indeed just managing education and managing calendar, academic calendar, is dragging this government, how much more the economy? And that's why we have even we found ourselves in this kind of quagmire as far as
you have criticized the implementation of a free senior high school policy. Per your criticisms,
the mode of implementation.
Before its implementation, today, would you say that the policy is a failure?
It's a total failure.
How?
Let him, Solomon, tell us the source of funding. He will not be able to tell me.
Well,
What's the source of funding? I would indulge your intervention. What's that?
Well, he said the oil fund, the oil proceeds.
That's not true.
And
Why is it not?
That's not true. In 20, let me listen to this. Look at what was from 2017 to 2021, the amount of money that was approved by Parliament to actually fund free SHS. Look at it, and that is from the annual budget allocation.
Right.
In 2017, it was 2019 was 1.2 billion was approved. In 2020, it was 1.6 billion was approved. 2021, 2.4 billion was approved in the budget annual budget. The APFA. So what is it talking about? Where from this oil this proceeds? It was allocated about from 2017 to 2021, about 7 billion Ghana cedis was allocated to fund free SHS. So he shouldn't tell us here is oil proceeds. You understand? So that's why I'm even saying, even with that one, they are not able to use that one judiciously to handle the free SHS. They go into, as I stated, Bloomberg reported that the Minister of State designate for finance indicated that they want to raise sustainable bonds. You understand? To at least a tune of $1 billion to fund free SHS. Loan. And that's why we always say that, and we've been calling our members of parliament for education and then even finance, and they've been calling that this government should be able to come out and tell us, and very soon they would call for the Minister of Finance to come out to Parliament and then answer that. They should be able to tell us how much has been used of the borrowed funds, the colossal amount of money they've borrowed, the whooping sum of money they've borrowed. How much has been used to fund free SHS apart from the annual budgetary allocation to fund it? Because earlier it was oil fund, which indeed, of course, even if it is the oil, he should know that it's not sustainable. Because as he made mention, even Dubai or UAE, they don't have oil again. Meanwhile, I know they have oil, they still get oil, they still have that natural resources. But even let's agree that he stated that they don't have oil revenue. They are now using other things to fund things.
They are money to tourism.
Yes, to tourism. Now, as to speak, if he's indicated that it is through oil funds, when the oil finishes, what are we going to use to fund it? He can't tell us.
So I should tell you.
He can't. No,
I'll give you the opportunity to respond.
Get the opportunity. So I am saying that this government has been so deceptive, and then they are good in flowery policies or flowery speeches or rhetoric.
But you would not be fair to government by saying that. But you would not be fair to government by saying that the free senior high school policy is a failure, because it's a policy that is in existence and still running. You know that just recently, some of the kids who wrote exams, I mean, some really did extremely well. I mean, some of them who wouldn't have had an opportunity to go to secondary school have even done exceptionally well. You see, you can't say that such a policy is a failure.
Yes, when we are talking about the induced aspect of, this what is it, a well-planned or attempt to ensure that it looks, this what is the optics look good for Ghanaians and others. They will say that we are enemies of Ghana because we are placing Ghana into reading. We were here when they for the first time, past questions to give to students to study. And past questions, that means most likely 90% or 80%, if you are going to take past questions from far, are most likely to come. And for that matter, students, you agree, we are all students, you understand? Or we've been students before. You agree when you are reading past questions. Understanding the subject matter is no more your concern. But what will come is more or less like they gave them apple. We don't want to talk about that, but we know it is just challenges. You understand? The chain of challenges that we are talking about, and we are saying that it is a failure. It is as a result of the not thought through policy, not well thought through policy, that is causing even the students, government not to know when the students will resume. It has never happened that they will say that basic schools should go on vacation, and then until further notice, you don't know when you are coming. It is as a result of that. And I will tell you that, look, it's as a result of inadequate funds to fund the school, to fund the feeding aspect of the free SHS. That is why they are delaying them. They can't give any other excuse. Any other excuse is something that we all know that is a fabricated one. It is as a result of lack of funds. So it is the chain, the fact that people are crowded, the fact that they were stampedes, the fact that they will even send people from far away to day schools that they don't even know anybody. Children as young as 13 years, as young as 12 years, you send the fellow to the north from south, and the fellow will come well away without having a place to sleep. So it is not always only the fact that they have refused to complete 3 years senior high schools to accommodate their challenges, but the fact that they are simply ineptitude, you understand, simply clueless as to how to handle common calendar, common reopening. That is what we are talking about, Justice. You understand? If they were having even calendar and they know that students are supposed to vacate this time around and come back this time around, yes, we agree with them that other challenges, but if they are not able to even come out with that kind of common calendar, how would they even be able to handle the whole country if they put if it is left inside into their hands? No. Our faith is in a bad government, is in a government that is bent on only speculating public funds and not to govern. They don't know. They are clueless as to how to govern the country. Very clueless. And that's why we are currently in this. They would run from e-levy upon the huge number of borrowed funds. They will run from e-levy upon the huge amount of revenue they have raked in. You understand? Just to place people under continual or perpetual hardship. No. So
right.
That is what I think. Solomon and then their leadership should understand that Ghanaians are watching, and then the day of retribution is coming.
Right.
Ghanaians will kick them all out, and then the NDC will step in and then handle the country well.
Thank you so much for your submission, Gafaro. I'm so grateful. Let me come to you, also. You would want to respond to some of the things by Gafaro, and then you touch on the strike action by UTAC and CETAC.
I mean, Gafaro started by saying their party does not have any problem with the free SHS. So I was wondering why he was going on and on trying to negate his own position. Because if you do not have a problem with the policy, then why negate it in the second instance? So I was wondering. Again, he tried to malign the one district, one factory, a policy of the government that is a failure. And God being so good, Gafaro is coming from the northeast. I wonder what his people will tell him, those working at the Walwali watermelon processing factory.
The last time I passed there, I don't think that factory was completed. I don't know if it has been completed.
Yes. I don't know what his people will tell. I don't know what his people working at Nasia Star Rice will tell him. I'm just giving citing example of one district, one factory in his own region. So that when he goes back, those that are working and happily receiving their salaries will tell Gafaro, my brother, why did you go and sit on TV and say the one district, one factory is not working? Again, let us correct an erroneous impression here. That as though Nanado's government or the MPP government never completed any e-block. In fact, the e-blocks, the NDC under the leadership of Don Mahama promised to build 200 e-blocks.
Yes.
But in 2014, they signed contract for 124, out of which 101 was supposed to be executed through government of Ghana funding. Phase 1 was supposed to be 50 and phase 2, 51. That was the situation. John Mahama could only build 29 out of it.
But that figure has been contested.
It is never true. And this figure was given by
the former education minister, Dr. Matthew Poku Prempeh, said that about 40-something was actually
that was
to them.
The official.
Where did you get
this? Is from the ministry. This is from the Ministry of Education, because.
But he was the Minister of Education.
If you are a Minister of Education, sometimes some of the data you will not have it in real time, and this was after the fact. Then the Ministry of Education came in and issued a statement debunking the minorities' position on e-blocks. As we speak, 60 has been completed. If you subtract 29 from 60, how many have you added? Is it not 31? Unless Gafaro is going to tell me as a mathematics student that 29 is greater than 31. If that is not the situation which any body who did mathematics know that 29 is less than 31, then what are we talking about? So the E-block issues, they shouldn't go there at all. They have been doing a lot of propaganda with it, and they have been getting away with it. It is never true.
So you said you have completed 6 of them.
We have completed 31.
31.
In addition to the 29 John Mahama left.
I see.
And the 60 are in operation.
And where are these 31 you have completed?
You see, Justice, you know, you gave us topics at the last minute. So that when Gavaro came, he was complaining, weren't you? If you okay. So when you are coming here, you are unable to bring all the material for I'm not sure I'm sure you would agree with me that I cannot commit all these.
I'll be fair.
So we have.
But at least you should have some.
No. I will finish with the next time we come. I will give you every detailed e-block that we have completed. It is it's a public document. Again, my brother was saying that because the government purchased past questions for students, and for that matter, we were aiding them to pass. But what is the focus, or what is the intention of every government? The intention of every government is to make sure that students pass and pass well. Those days, we were using our own monies to buy past questions. Those that didn't have money to buy past questions.
What was the motive behind government procuring past questions for the students?
I mean, it was to guide them how questions are set. You know, examination, what do you call it, blues. Some students will never see past questions before they write exam. So when they see questions, they are frightened. But when you are giving past questions and how it is answered, at the end of the day, chief examiners always come up with their reports, and these reports are supposed to be made available to students to know the way and manner they are supposed to answer questions. There is nothing wrong with it. If a government buys past questions from 1993 to 2001, and you can imagine the volume of it, why would anybody sit anywhere and say that government, by virtue of that single act that we have to applaud government, is trying to, as it were, lead them to pass? After all, government wants the case to pass. We don't want anybody to fail. And in any case, if it was the intention of government to see to it that we were giving you tip-off for all students to pass, we wouldn't have failures. Some failed, but those that were serious with their books and took the past questions serious, went through it, they passed. So you should rather commend government on that. Again, what was he saying? That Ghanaians have handed this country into the hands of incompetent NPP? Did I hear him right? That NDC now is a competent party, a party that put us through 5 years of doomsday, that productivity went as slow as anything. Now we have been told that we should hand over the country into their hands. No, the future is trade and industry. We cannot do that. If the future in the world, everywhere in this world agrees that it has to be trade and industry needs energy, then the country cannot hand this, we cannot hand this country over back to them. And indeed, 2 years ago, we went to the Ghanaian public and told them about our policies and programs and what we have done. They also went to the market and showed what they did in the past. And the Ghanaian gave us an overwhelming endorsement that we should continue ruling this country. So I don't know if they will continue to sing the same tune that is keeping them in opposition, we don't have any problem. But the truth of the matter is that, yes, we have challenges. He was talking about the fact that because the Ministry of Education set up a ministerial committee to look into the academic calendar, that means we are unable to handle education, knowing very well that never in our history have we been made to sleep or to be indoors. The COVID era, that disrupted the academic calendar. So you needed to realign it. And that one, a lot of thinking had to go into it so that we do not have a situation whereby ours will not be running in the same sequence with our West African countries. Don't forget, we are not doing things in isolation. We also have our West African neighborhoods because we write WASI together. And so the calendar must sit or situate with years. So I wish them well in the direction that they are going, and I'm very glad that at the point he said John Mahama started the free SHS, because they are now beginning to accept that it's a good policy, that they can, no amount of propaganda will destroy it. Let us look forward and then solve the petty problems or challenges confronting, and we are doing it, so that our kids The mothers that could not hitherto not fund their war's education will enjoy it. After all, they pay taxes. You and I pay taxes. What direct benefit do we get from government apart from the roads that we use and the electricity? This one, at least every family, if your ward enters secondary school and you are saved from paying school fees to the tune of 3,000, you will know that indeed it's a good policy, and we must all support it.
Well, thank you so much. I don't think that we have the time to discuss the UTAG and CTAG strike. Our time is up. Let me come to Gafaro. Take us home. I think you have some few, response to that of what Mr. Osu said.
Yes, as I stated earlier, MPP, when they are speaking, sometimes I don't know whether they project or think as to those who are listening, whether they are people from towns in which they are discussing about. I was thinking that Solomon will not speak about Northeast region, knowing very well that I'm from that place, and then sitting here on a national television to say that Wale Watermelon Factory is people are working there. Come on, working well. Wale Watermelon Factory, that was commissioned on that was 16th September 2019. That was when the sword was cut. And it was stated that it will complete in September 2020. And let us put it on record. That 36 million Ghana cedis stuff that is used or that is taken from the Exim Bank to construct that watermelon factory was through the effort of President John Dramani Mahama. I hope you are aware. So it was through the
we need to reduce the, because we are not discussing one district, one factory. We are discussing education. We need to really, move
I am
on.
saying they started the watermelon factory, and I am saying that even the amount, the money that has been taken.
But the topic is not on one district,
I'm
one
just
factory.
to make it
so it should be a quick response.
Yes,
so we move
that's
on.
a quick response.
Right.
So let's take it, and it has not. Let's put it on record. It has not been commissioned. Not to talk of people working in it.
Okay. Right.
Again, with regards to the E-block, you corrected him that the former Minister of Education made mention that MPP, in fact, it was a categorical statement that NDC completed only 46, and that was carried out by Ghana Web. That was carried out by what is it?
Ministry of Education.
No, it was reported by graphics online.
And says,
look at it. NDC built only 46 community day senior high. Opoku Prempe.
Okay.
It was a categorical statement. It wasn't that he was speaking as a result of maybe the handing over notes. Don't try to obfuscate the reality. No. He was speaking categorically after their own assertion. So if you are saying that we are saying things that is contesting our figures, you are rather contesting the figure of your minister or your then minister.
He's still a minister.
The then education minister. That's what I mean.
Okay.
If we are talking about the e-blocks, the e-blocks that you are claiming that you've completed, when indeed, just quite recently, the president poignantly expressed against a full chief, a full paramount chief, the Aflao chief, for crying out loud that please come and complete our SHS, our block, so that my subjects, the vicinity, the surrounding community can get access to education. And your president poignantly expressed, if a demeaning the chief or the paramount chief.
He's your president?
Insulting the whole of the Aflao community.
How did he insult
people who are under you. So, look, when you are talking about e-blocks, please don't even go there. And of course, even if you say that you have completed about 30, about 31. I'm saying, assuming without admitting
that's the truth.
I'm saying, assuming without admitting that they have completed 31. What of those that are not completed? What of the Langbisi one? What of the Naswandi one?
We are working on it.
If you had completed that, you would not need to come and be building, saying that you are building when indeed you don't even have money. You are running behind, or this and what is it, e-levy to get money to even run the country. You are now saying that you are going to build those kind of 20 and then 10 what and what STEM schools. Come on. And let's wait to see. I don't want to say it will be like we are doomsayers. Let's wait to see whether this will come to fruitful.
Right.
You understand? Because even currently, if they are doing that to enhance science and mathematics and technology,
Math, science,
they
technology,
may mention, it is on record that they said that they will give free Wi-Fi to senior high students and then to other basic schools to enhance their technological abilities. As we speak, have you gone to any school? There's not even a single school that is enjoying that. And this is even part of their the campaign promise. A major aspect of their campaign promise. They are not able to even provide that.
Right.
How much more this kind of... it is just a pipe dream, trust me. I don't want to say it will be like we are doing it, but it is a pipe dream. Because common things, if it
well,
is
we have been
Wi-Fi,
given 24 months. Let's wait.
Common Wi-Fi, if they are not able
24
to
months
do
is
it,
2 years.
and this
I
is
guess.
their 7th year as when they promised that. Till now, they are not able to do it. How much more? 24 years.
24 months.
24 months. Come on. You understand? It's ridiculous. Please, at least you should know that Ghanaians are people who are having brains. We are not sitting with trash inside our car. You understand? Because these are questions we will ask you. And this is the record. This is the standard.
You can only say this if after 24 months government is unable to do what
no, I'm saying
they have promised
they have a
people of
track
Ghana.
record. And
Anyway.
we are having a standard to which we would place them.
Okay.
I am saying that if they are able to do the one district, they may mention that they are going to use 18 months to complete one district, one factory before the corona. They weren't able to do that. And they gave another 1 year and now incorporated it into Agenda 111.
Yeah.
Up to now, we don't even know where they've gotten to. You understand? So they are having a standard and they are having where we would actually use to mark them. So this is merely a pipe dream and rhetorics. And a short-cutting.
Okay.
They can't even... Let's wait to see whether we will get a commissioning of a single one of them before these people leave.
Thank you so much,
So,
Gafari.
Candidate Solomon, kindly concentrate. Tell your leadership to concentrate on the Wi-Fi.
The party of
If they concentrate on the Wi-Fi, if they concentrate on the Wi-Fi and they are able to execute that, we will know that because it's also part of technology. We will then believe that they will be able to execute this.
Thank you so much, Gafari, for coming. I'm so grateful for your time. Mr. Solomon, thank you so Mr. Osu, thank you so much for coming. I'm so grateful. Comrade A.A. Gafari is the Deputy Regional Communications Officer of the National Democratic Congress in the Northeast region. Also, Mr. Solomon Wusu is a national communications team member of the New Patriotic Party. These are time will allow us on the program. My name is Justice Appiah, and the show has been Hot News. Make a time with us same time next week. Goodbye.
Mr. Solomon also.